Let's write our base classes for our block entities. Hello everyone, this is Ali Reza. Welcome to the Mentor Code Lab. In previous episode, we wrote 4 different classes for our blocks. Now the same concept is happening here. We want some classes that has boilerplates for our block entities, and they are not that complex, honestly. The very first one is for a block entity that is not providing any interface, no GUIs whatsoever, but it will be updated. Now, what is this updating that I called and talked about in few different episodes? Being able to update a block entity means that we are going to sync the data between the client and the server automatically. So we don't have to handle that sync manually like the old days. We are syncing the data, we are writing the NBTs and handling everything, and we call this process update. Now again, the update method is something that was in Turtivorti's code. I'm not sure if others had done something like that or not, but honestly I think it's a nice thing to have. So I will get this code ready. Let's close our classes from the previous video and let's start with block entities. So the first class is no screen updatable block entity. As the name suggests, it's a block entity, so it extends block entity, and because it extends block entity, now it has a constructor. However, to make sure that we know when to update the data, we need a flag. So we say protected Boolean is dirty equals to false. So whenever we make the dirty to true, that is when we want everything to update itself. After the constructor, we want the update method. Now remember, we have this I updatable. So we say implements I updatable. We have to implement it for 2 reasons. First, we get these 2 methods, and second, remember, we had some things that we're looking if we are updatable. Okay, now on tick end and on tick client end, and honestly, we need something more. Now this is update, so I will add that method here, void update. I forgot that one. So if I come back here, it yells at me to implement that. Yes, thank you. Now on update, we check this that is dirty equals to true. We made sure that we are dirtying block entities, so everything is working. When we are going to the end tick, so if not, should wait and tick. If we shouldn't wait for the end of the tick, we mark dirty the block entity. This will cause saving the data on the game, and then we say if this.word does not equal null and not this.word that is client. So if we are server side, we say this.word that update listeners for this blog post and get cached state for the states, again get cached state for the new state, and finally block.notify all. This update listener call will cause the syncing between the client and server. As simple as that, with a single line of code. Of course, we have to add more things, but after the overrides, I will add this public boolean should wait and tick. By default, we return false. So we immediately mark the block entity as dirty and we sync. But if we have to wait for end tick at some point, that is when we call on end tick. So we say if this dot is dirty. If we are dirty, we want to do stuff. First, we will flag back that is dirty to be false. We handle the dirty state right now. Then we mark dirty the entity, and again we update listeners. So what we had done here is that we gave ourselves a way of handling the concept of updating. Should we update as soon as possible inside a tick, or should we wait for everything to be finished on the tick, and at the end, if we marked ourselves dirty, then we sync everything? That's the whole thing. Okay, now of course we don't do anything client side, so I will leave it empty. I want to make this class as abstract. Making it abstract means that now I can get rid of this and we will not have any errors because we didn't implement it. Actually, if we implement it, no, we will leave it empty. Okay, no, I will implement it because this is no screen update, so we are not handling the GUIs. You may want to play sounds, so that's it. Okay, that's our first block entity, and you see how we are handling the developmental process. But I forgot, we have few different things to handle. To update packet, whenever you write the update listener, if you want to sync everything automatically, you have to implement this block entity update server to client dot create this as the packet. So again, we are sending a packet from server to clients with the information on the block entity. And finally, the last method to initialize the chunk data NBT, we say NBT compound, NBT equals to super dot to initialize with the registries. So first we call the super, we cache back the compound, then we call the write NBT with the NBT and registries, and finally we return the NBT. Now remember, write NBT is a method from block entities. What we had done here is that we call the super, we cache the result of calling the super, then we force ourselves to write the NBT whenever we want to initialize the chunk data. And combining these two with the update listener causes the sync between client and server. So for machines, for example, if the energy value is changing on the server side and you open the client, you don't need to handle the syncing yourself anymore, and the energy value will be synced automatically. Now this block entity by default is not waiting for the end tick. I want to have a new class, and I will call it no screen updatable end tick. Yeah, it's a big name, but who cares? Now this one extends the no screen updatable B. So of course I have to implement the methods on tick client, and no, I don't want to do that. This is another abstract. So this is an abstract, and now it says to create a constructor. That's okay. All we want to do here, we call that should wait for end tick, and we return true. So now I have an extension that by default forces that updating the listener to the end of the tick. Okay, these two were not providing any screen or GUI. I want counterparts that has GUI, so it will be updatable BE. Updatable BE extends no screen updatable BE, but implements the extended screen handler factory of block pose payload. So we add a payload when we open the screen, implementing the methods on tick client, and yeah, I will implement all of that and then create the constructor and then make the class abstract and remove anything that I want. So the constructor is okay, and all we want here is actually none of these, the create menu, wait a minute. Yeah, I don't need the create menu. I don't need the get display name or anything else. All I need is this get screen opening data, because now I will say new block pose payload with this dot pose. So we add the payload when we are opening the data, and we know that for any block entity that opens a GUI, we have to write other methods. Finally, I have the same concept, but for the block end tick one. So it will be updatable end tick BE. And again, it extends the no screen end tick BE, and it's abstract. So that's that. Implements extended factory with the block pose payload. Of course, we need a constructor, and then again, the get screen opening data, we return new block pose with this dot pose, and that's it. So now here's a question: when we will use this end tick BE? Normally, when we have recipes and we have different ways of handling energy or fluid or inventory inside a block entity, we want to sync the block entity, and then we want to call the end tick, because the end tick is what we are using here on the sync. So basically what we are doing is that in our machines we will implement this iSynced tick, and this will cause the machine to handle its recipes, its fluid, its energy, everything, and then sync the storages for them, and at the very end of the tick method it will call the on tick, and that's it. So that is why we have the boilerplates right now. This does not make sense because at current time what we have are pieces of puzzles that we didn't put them together. These are the very basic stuff that we will use later to add another few classes here actually on Machina. And then you will understand that, okay, any machine is a syncable, and the syncable will sync the data and then call the on end tick, and now everything works as expected. Now, I did say that we are done when we add our block entities in previous episode. However, I forgot. We have a client folder, and in client folder, we have 4 different classes. Actually, I may put few of them somewhere else, but I think I will keep them in client. And when we add them, I will check the whole notes, and I think we are done when we add the clients, but don't keep that as a promise.
If you like these videos, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on that bell so that when I publish a new video, you will get informed. Have fun, everyone. Bye.